what is the role of Christianity within black communities, right? Especially with the emerging charismatic churches, which I think they are robbing our people on all levels, on the economic level, on the moral level, as well as on the spiritual level. Because I believe that churches are institutions within society, therefore they are microcosms of society, and therefore they should not operate in isolation of society and the challenges that it faces. So what do I mean by that? I mean that it's highly problematic when you look at the nature of these charismatic churches. They tend to demonize poverty by calling it a demon. Where else it's a challenge. And what one would appreciate is to then, to have these churches speaking on how we can address poverty, in all levels that it's characterized by, the high levels of unemployment of youth, the high levels of illiteracy, the moral decay. I mean, we are in an age of moral decay where, violence against women, domestic abuse, and all of this violence that we see has become a norm. And it's very saddening because I'm from the townships. In the 2000s, you didn't have so many tents that you have now. And society was a bit better, But now you have these tents and society is worse. You have pastors coercing young girls to sex, to fatherless, children, and therefore leaving them in a more dreadful, sort of experience, deepening their material conditions and all of that. So I think in this context, one would then say there's a problem with the ministering of Christianity within black communities. I'm not sure if Christianity itself is problematic because I'm a Christian, but the ministering of it is very problematic. The orientation of it is very problematic. And I think we need to stand up as society and challenge that, to say we can no longer live, side by side with this level of immorality becoming a norm to such an extent that, we laugh about pastors spraying doom on our mothers' faces. We laugh about pastors giving our mothers snakes to eat, giving our mothers grass to eat. And those things are immoral and they're unacceptable, because now churches are playing a divisive role rather than a uniting role and a role of addressing, the challenges that society is facing. When we go to church and I'm a pastor holding the mic and I tell you that you're a witch, you're bewitching this one, I've already broken the community. And we know that in Africa, in the African saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Now, when you find a church within a village dividing that village, you begin to ask yourself, what kind of children are we raising? What kind of societies are we building out of churches? And lastly, not to go long, is to say that I think because that shows that there's more people going to church than there is more people going to school nowadays, right? So the importance of education should be, emphasized at church. In fact, if a church is not willing to speak on the importance of education, it should not be allowed to operate, because as Palilo Khotla said when they released the unemployment rate, to say there is an industry of reproducing poverty by young people graduating from poverty to unemployment. So you would then expect all institutions within society of such significance as churches to be hammering on the importance of education. You would expect every pastor who has a channel on whatever TV, whether it's Soweto, to be speaking about the importance of education. Because at the end of the day, we go back to your quote that God is not in the habit of coming down to solve people's problems. We must empower people to solve their problems. And I think once we can start transforming our churches to ensure that they speak to society, they realize that they are microcosms of society, they realize that they have a responsibility to contribute towards the solutions that we need for society to progress, then we'll have a better place than we do right now.
All right, thanks so much, Kefentse. You have a Kefentse, folks. Thank you so much. Quite profound. Open it to the house for anyone that has a question.
in the house. There you go. Please help out, Tone.
To whom the question is, given to.
It's not a question per se, but a comment and a correction to say that, when you generalize and saying that churches are playing a more negative role, it is unfair to some of the ministers and the churches who are doing their part. Like myself, I'll give you a practical example. I'm glad that our young people are here. One, I am working for myself, and I don't take any money from the church for my personal use. Two, I'm working on a business. Number three, every Sunday we've got teachings where we teach about all the areas of life. Our vision is simple to say that empower, God-fearing and empowered in all spheres of life. So we teach about finances, we talk about social issues, we talk about health, we talk about everything. And the other thing, again, the problem is not with the church or religion itself. When you look at the history of the church, Christianity was hijacked because of the influence and the power that it has on the society. And if you read the book of Jude, it says that there are people, even people who've infiltrated us, they've slipped in unnoticed so as to cause confusion, because of whatever that has numbers, it has power. And to come back to the topic of the day, to say that as the church, what we need to do is, I agree with the panelists there to say that the ministering of the gospel is the problem. What we need to be asking ourselves is, what can we do as young people to ensure that we correct all the things that are wrong? And most importantly, not pointing a finger, because even if there can be many people who've infiltrated Christianity or the church, but people still have one thing that no one can take away from you, which is a choice. So we've got a choice and we've got a responsibility, because these people, they do not point a gun at you to say, come and bring all of your money to me and I eat it alone. We need to start valuing each other, and we need to read the Bible for ourselves so that we can know what the Word of God says about our life, our purpose, and about the future, and take our future in our hands and start doing something about it.
Thank you so much, Professor.
I think I'm too old to be here if we youth talking together, so I'm here more like a spy for the older generation. But my question to you, the younger people, is the panelists could be the ones to respond, or anyone. I just have a very simple question. If you were to make policies that would govern religions, what would you do differently from what we have currently? And I'll limit my question to South Africa, because I'm ached by the way religion is practiced in South Africa. So that's my question.
To your question, Ma, I think I did touch that on it a bit, to say, one, religions must realize that they're operating within society, and society that has its own problems and challenges, right? And as I said, that one of the things is to hammer on education, because it's paramount. It's paramount. Any institution that does not speak to education, for me, is useless, because that's of paramount importance to me. And then secondly, religion is supposed to be a moral agent. So once there are practices of immorality, then we have to step in. There has to be rigorous steps that are taken to ensure that those practices are stopped, right? And lastly, I would say inclusivity. Because the sad part is that, once one is in most cases, once one is not a Christian, it's difficult for them to even find expression within that space, because it's judgmental on its own. It's very judgmental. And you must understand that South Africa in its entirety is a very diverse country, in terms of its religions, in terms of race, in terms of that, So those are the three principles that I would really speak on. Inclusivity, realizing that you're functioning within society, and hammering on education. Those are the three. Hammering on education.